Gosh, Halloween parties in Huntington Beach or something else. There I was, strutting into this beachside bash, dressed as a 1,960 seconds race car driver, complete with a vintage helmet and racing suit. I figured I'd stand out, you know? But damn, fate had other plans. As I sauntered towards the bar, my eyes locked onto another woman in an eerily similar getup. For a split second, I thought I was looking in a mirror, but no, this brunette beauty was definitely not me. Our eyes met, and I swear, time stood still. "Nice outfit," I said, trying to play it cool. "Fangio?" Her green eyes lit up. "Close. Sterling Moss, actually. You've got good taste." "Jane?" I offered, extending my hand. "Jane Williams." "Alexandra Davis," she replied, her grip firm and confident. "So Jane, what's your poison? Octane or ethanol?" I couldn't help but laugh. "How about we start with a martini and see where the night takes us?" As we settled into our drinks, the conversation flowed as smoothly as high-grade motor oil. Alexandra wasn't just wearing a costume, she knew her stuff. We dove deep into the intricacies of carburetors, the evolution of aerodynamics, and the raw thrill of pushing 200 miles per hour on the straightaway. "Wait," I interrupted, midway through her passionate description of a Ferrari's engine. "How do you know all this?" Alexandra's smile was both shy and proud. "I'm the head mechanic at Huntington Speedway. Cars are my life." My heart skipped a beat. Here I was, a professional race car driver, having the most engaging conversation of my life with a woman who could probably take my car apart and put it back together blindfolded. As the night wore on, we migrated from the bar to a quiet spot on the beach. The sound of waves crashing mingled with our laughter as we swapped stories of pit lane disasters and miraculous last-lap victories. "You know," Alexandra said, her voice softening, "I've never met anyone who gets it like you do. The rush, the precision, the passion." Our eyes met again, and this time, I felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with engines. Her lips were so close, and for a moment, I thought about closing that gap. But something held me back. Fear? Uncertainty? I wasn't sure. Instead, I raised my glass. "To new friendships and fast cars," I toasted. "And to Halloween coincidences," she added with a wink. As the party wound down, we exchanged numbers, promising to meet up at the track sometime. Walking home that night, my head was spinning, and it wasn't from the martinis. I'd come to this party expecting a night of small talk and mediocre cocktails. Instead, I'd met someone who made my heart race faster than any checkered flag ever could. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything. Alexandra Davis had just entered my life, and nothing would ever be the same again. A week after that fateful Halloween night, I found myself pulling into Huntington Speedway for a routine maintenance check. My mind was still buzzing with memories of Alexandra, but I'd been too chicken to call her. As I coasted into the garage, my jaw nearly hit the floor. There she was, coveralls on, hair tied back, elbow deep in an engine. "Well, well," she called out, wiping her hands on a rag. "Look what the cat dragged in." I tried to play it cool, but my heart was doing backflips. "Small world, huh? I had no idea you worked here." Alexandra's smile was infectious. "Guess we were too busy talking about the good old days to mention the present. Your car due for a checkup?" I nodded, suddenly feeling like a teenager with a crush. As she popped the hood and started examining my engine, I couldn't help but admire her expertise. Her fingers moved with precision, her eyes sharp and focused. "You've got a bit of wear on your camshaft," she muttered, more to herself than to me. "We should replace that before your next race." I raised an eyebrow. You know I race?" She glanced up, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Jane Williams, 3-time winner of the Pacific Coast Championship? Yeah. I might have Googled you." I felt my cheeks flush. Guilty as charged. "So think you can get me race ready?" "Honey, when I'm done with this baby, you'll be breaking records." And just like that, a partnership was born. Over the next few weeks, Alexandra became my secret weapon. She fine-tuned my car with an intuition that bordered on magical. With every adjustment, every tweak, my lap times improved. But it wasn't just about the mechanics. Our late-night strategy sessions often veered off into personal territory. I learned about her childhood in a small Midwest town, her struggle to be taken seriously in a male-dominated field. In turn, I shared stories of my own journey, The thrill of my first win, the crushing disappointment of near misses. One night, as we hunched over blueprints for a new spoiler design, our hands brushed. A jolt of electricity shot through me, and I quickly pulled away, my heart racing. "You okay?" Alexandra asked, concern etching her features. "Yeah, just static electricity," I lied, trying to ignore the lingering warmth where our skin had touched. As race day approached, our bond deepened. Alexandra was more than just my mechanic, she'd become my confidant, my support system. The night before the big race, we stayed late at the garage, double-checking every inch of the car. "You've got this, Jane," she said, her hand resting on my shoulder. "This car is perfect, and so are you." Our eyes met, and for a moment, I thought I saw something more than friendship in her gaze. But before I could process it, she pulled away, busying herself with a final check of the tires. Race day dawned bright and clear. As I settled into the driver's seat, I caught sight of Alexandra and the pit crew. She flashed me a thumbs up, and suddenly all my nerves melted away. With her in my corner, I felt invincible. The race was a blur of speed and adrenaline. But in those crucial moments, when split-second decisions meant the difference between victory and defeat, it was Alexandra's voice in my ear, guiding me home. As I crossed the finish line in first place, the roar of the crowd was deafening. But the only face I sought out was hers. Our eyes locked across the track, and in that moment, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about racing anymore. Alexandra Davis had become an essential part of my life, both on and off the track. As I stood on the podium, trophy in hand, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the start of something more than just a professional partnership? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain, my life had changed forever, and I was in for one hell of a ride. The weeks following my big win were a whirlwind of celebrations and media appearances. Through it all, Alexandra was my rock, keeping me grounded and focused on the next race. But something was shifting between us, a tension I couldn't quite name. One night, long after the rest of the crew had gone home, we found ourselves alone in the garage. I was sprawled under my car, tinkering with a stubborn bolt, while Alexandra pored over some paperwork nearby. "Hey, Alex," I called out, using the nickname I'd given her. "Can you hand me that wrench?" She knelt beside me, passing the tool. Our fingers brushed, and there it was again, that electric jolt. This time, neither of us pulled away immediately. I looked up, meeting her gaze, and the world seemed to slow down. "Thanks," I mumbled, my mouth suddenly dry. Alexandra smiled, a soft, almost shy expression I'd never seen before. "Anytime, Jane." As I slid out from under the car, I noticed a smudge of grease on her cheek. Without thinking, I reached out to wipe it away. My hand lingered on her face, and for a moment I thought she leaned into my touch. The spell was broken by the harsh ring of my phone. I jerked away, fumbling to answer it. It was my agent, rambling about some sponsorship deal. By the time I hung up, the moment had passed, leaving me confused and oddly bereft. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself looking for excuses to spend more time with Alexandra. Late-night strategy sessions stretched into early morning chats. I started noticing little things, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, how she bit her lip when concentrating on a particularly tricky repair. One afternoon, during a routine maintenance check, I misjudged a step and stumbled, twisting my ankle. Alexandra was by my side in an instant, her hands gentle as she examined the injury. "It's not too bad," she said, her fingers probing carefully. "But you should stay off it for a bit." Before I could protest, she'd scooped me up in her arms, carrying me to the small couch in her office. I was acutely aware of her strength, the warmth of her body against mine. "You didn't have to do that," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She shrugged, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "Couldn't let our star driver hobble around, could I?" As she tended to my ankle, applying an ice pack and wrapping it expertly, I found myself studying her face. The concentration in her eyes, the slight furrow of her brow, it was all achingly beautiful. "There," she said, patting my leg gently. "Good as new." Our eyes met, and suddenly the air felt thick with unspoken words. I opened my mouth, not sure what I was going to say, when her phone buzzed. The moment shattered, and she stepped away, answering the call. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the day's events, a realization hit me like a ton of bricks. These feelings I had for Alexandra, they weren't just friendship. This was something deeper, more intense. I was falling for her, hard and fast. The thought terrified me. Alexandra was my friend, my mechanic, my partner in the racing world. What if I was misreading things? What if she didn't feel the same way? The risk of losing her friendship, of making things awkward in our professional relationship, seemed too high. But another part of me, a part growing louder by the day, wondered, what if she did feel the same? The way she looked at me sometimes, the lingering touches, the easy intimacy we'd developed. Could it all mean something more? As dawn broke, I made a decision. I couldn't risk our friendship, our partnership. I'd keep my feelings to myself, bury them deep if I had to. Alexandra was too important to lose over what might be a fleeting attraction. Little did I know, fate had other plans. The coming weeks would test not just my resolve, but everything I thought I knew about myself and my relationship with Alexandra. The race of my life was about to begin, and this time, the finish line was my own heart. Damn, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Her name was Melissa Rodriguez, a rising star in the racing circuit with looks that could stop traffic and an attitude to match. From the moment she sauntered into our pit crew, I knew trouble was brewing. She was everything I wasn't. Sleek, polished, with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. And she had her sights set on Alexandra. I watched, jaw clenched, as Melissa found every excuse to be near my mechanic. A technical question here, a quick consultation there. Alexandra, ever professional, seemed oblivious to the not-so-subtle flirtation. Nice work on William's car, Melissa purred during one team meeting. You're probably the best mechanic in the circuit. Alexandra smiled, that smile that used to be reserved just for me. Thanks. It's all about understanding the machine. Something inside me started to boil. I'd never considered myself the jealous type, but watching Melissa circle Alexandra like a predator made my blood run cold. The tension came to a head during a crucial qualifying race. I overheard Melissa asking Alexandra out for dinner, her hand casually touching Alexandra's arm. The gesture was casual, intimate, and it drove me crazy. We could discuss some modifications to my car, Melissa was saying, her voice a practiced purr. Alexandra hesitated. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty? Interest? I couldn't tell. That night, I drove like a woman possessed. Each turn was sharper, each acceleration more aggressive. Alexandra's voice crackled through the headset, giving precise instructions, but I was operating on pure adrenaline and unexplained rage. I won the qualifying race by the smallest margin in circuit history. As I pulled into the pit, expecting celebration, I found Melissa waiting instead of Alexandra. Impressive drive, she said, her eyes studying me carefully. But I think Alexandra and I are grabbing dinner to discuss some technical details. The words hit me like a punch. My carefully constructed wall of denial, the one keeping my feelings for Alexandra neatly compartmentalized, started to crumble. Like hell you are, I muttered under my breath. But what could I do? Alexandra wasn't mine. We were friends, colleagues, nothing more. The rational part of my brain kept repeating this, even as my heart screamed otherwise. Later that evening, I found Alexandra working late in the garage. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. Thought you'd be celebrating, she said. I shrugged, trying to sound casual. Just another race. Something in my tone must have betrayed me. Alexandra looked at me, really looked at me, her green eyes searching. For what? I wasn't sure. Is everything okay? She asked softly. Everything was decidedly not okay. I was falling apart, watching the woman I was secretly in love with being pursued by someone else, but I couldn't tell her that. Fine, I lied. Perfectly fine. As I turned to leave, I caught her watching me. For just a moment, I thought I saw a flash of something. Disappointment, hurt, in her eyes. The rivalry had begun, and I was fighting a war I wasn't sure I could win. Melissa Rodriguez might be competition on the racing track, but in matters of the heart, I was my own worst enemy. One thing was certain, this was far from over. The tension between Alexandra, Melissa, and me had been building for weeks like a pressure cooker ready to explode. And on a stormy night in Huntington Beach, it finally did. I'd been avoiding the garage, making excuses to keep my distance from Alexandra. The sight of her laughing with Melissa during team meetings was more than I could bear, But when my car started making an ominous rattling sound during a practice run, I had no choice but to seek her expertise. As I pulled into the garage, the skies opened up. Rain pounded against the metal roof, creating a deafening symphony. Alexandra was there, alone, hunched over an engine block. "Jane," she said, surprise evident in her voice, "didn't expect to see you tonight." I explained the issue, trying to keep my tone professional, detached. She nodded, all business, and got to work. We fell into our old rhythm, me handing her tools, her fingers working their magic on the engine. For a moment it felt like old times. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and died. We were plunged into darkness, save for the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the garage. "Shit," Alexandra muttered. "Power must be out in the whole area." She fumbled in the dark, her hand accidentally brushing against mine. That familiar spark ignited, and this time, in the cover of darkness, neither of us pulled away immediately. "Alex," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the storm. A flash of lightning illuminated her face, so close to mine. Her eyes were wide, searching. In that moment, all my carefully constructed walls came crumbling down. I leaned in, my lips meeting hers in a kiss that was equal parts desperation and relief. For a heartbeat she froze. Then, to my amazement and joy, she kissed me back. It was everything I'd dreamed of and more. Her lips were soft, tasting faintly of coffee and motor oil. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer. Her fingers tangled in my hair, deepening the kiss. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, reality came crashing back. What had I done? "I'm sorry," I stammered, taking a step back. "I shouldn't have." "Jane," Alexandra interrupted, her voice gentle. "Don't apologize. I've wanted to do that for a long time." My heart soared, then immediately plummeted. "But, Melissa?" Alexandra looked confused. "Melissa? What about her?" I thought. "You two seemed close. I assumed you were interested in her." To my surprise, Alexandra laughed. "Melissa? God, no. She's been trying to get me to tweak her car's specs, against regulation, I might add. I've been putting her off for weeks." Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by embarrassment. Had I really misread the situation so badly? I thought. I began, then stopped. "I've been such an idiot." Alexandra stepped closer, her hand cupping my cheek. "We both have. I've been falling for you since that Halloween party, Jane. I just never thought you'd feel the same way." The admission sent a thrill through me. All this time, we'd both been harboring the same secret feelings, too afraid to act on them. "So what now?" I asked, suddenly feeling vulnerable. Alexandra's response was to pull me in for another kiss, this one slower, deeper. When we parted, she rested her forehead against mine. "Now," she said, "we stop wasting time." As if on cue, the lights flickered back to life. We blinked in the sudden brightness, laughing at the absurdity of it all. That night changed everything. As we worked side by side to finish the repairs on my car, stolen glances and lingering touches replaced our previous awkwardness. Every brush of her hand sent shivers down my spine. Every smile she gave me made my heart race faster than any car ever could. As dawn broke, we emerged from the garage, hand in hand. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean. It felt like a metaphor for us, the turbulence of unspoken feelings giving way to the clear light of understanding. But as we stood there, basking in the glow of new love, I couldn't shake the feeling that our biggest challenges were still ahead. The racing world wasn't known for its acceptance of same-sex relationships. How would our team react? What about our sponsors? For now, though, those concerns seemed distant. All that mattered was Alexandra's hand in mine, the promise of a future together stretching out before us like an open road. Little did we know, the real race, the fight for our love and our place in the racing world, was just beginning. The honeymoon phase of our relationship was sweet but short-lived. Reality came crashing down on us faster than a car hitting a wall at MPH. It started with whispers in the pit lane, sidelong glances and hushed conversations that would abruptly stop when Alexandra or I walked by. At first we tried to ignore it, focusing on each other and the upcoming races. But as the days wore on, the tension became palpable. Things came to a head during a team meeting. I was reviewing race strategies with the crew when I noticed Tom, one of the older mechanics, muttering something under his breath. "Got something to say, Tom?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. He looked up, a mix of defiance and discomfort on his face. "Just wondering if we're here to race or play house?" The room fell silent. I felt Alexandra stiffen beside me. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice dangerously low. Tom shrugged, emboldened by the silence. "Look, what you two do in your private time is your business. But this relationship, it's distracting. It's unprofessional." I was about to unleash a tirade when Alexandra's hand on my arm stopped me. She stood up, her green eyes flashing with a fire I'd never seen before. "Unprofessional?" she said, her voice calm but steely. "You want to talk about professionalism, Tom? Let's talk about how our distraction has led to 3 consecutive wins. Let's discuss how our late-night strategy sessions, yes, those ones you're all gossiping about, have improved our lap times by seconds." She paused, looking around the room. "Jane and I are professionals. We're damn good at what we do. Our relationship doesn't change that. If anything, it makes us better." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, to my surprise, Mike, our team owner, started clapping. "Well said, Alexandra," he nodded approvingly. "Now, can we get back to discussing how we're going to demolish the competition next weekend?" The meeting resumed, but something had shifted. As we filed out later, several team members approached us, offering words of support and apologies for their earlier behavior. But not everyone was won over. As we headed to the parking lot, we overheard Melissa talking to a group of sponsors. "I'm just saying, it's not the image we want to project," she was saying. "Family values and all that." My blood boiled, but Alexandra squeezed my hand, reminding me to keep my cool. We had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The next few weeks were a roller coaster. For every person who supported us, there seemed to be another who disapproved. We lost a minor sponsor, but gained a new one who specifically wanted to back an LGBTQ-friendly team. Through it all, Alexandra was my rock. Her unwavering support and quiet strength kept me grounded when the pressure threatened to overwhelm me. One night, after a particularly grueling day of practice and damage control, we collapsed onto the couch in my apartment. "You okay?" Alexandra asked, her fingers intertwining with mine. I sighed, leaning into her. "Just tired of fighting, you know? Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it." She tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet her gaze. "Hey, don't you dare give up on us. What we have, it's special. It's worth fighting for." Her words hit home, reminding me why I'd fallen for her in the first place. This incredible woman, who could rebuild an engine blindfolded and stand up to a room full of prejudice without breaking a sweat, had chosen me. "You're right," I said, pulling her close. "We've got this." As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The road ahead might be bumpy, but with Alexandra by my side, I was ready to face whatever came our way. The next morning, we walked into the garage, hand in hand, heads held high. There were still whispers, still disapproving looks, but there were also smiles, nods of encouragement. As I slid into my car for the day's practice run, I caught Alexandra's eye. She winked, mouthing, "Go get him, champ." And in that moment, I knew. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter what obstacles we faced, we were in this race together. And together, we were unstoppable. The morning of the championship race dawned clear and crisp. As I stood in the pit lane, the familiar pre-race jitters dancing in my stomach, I felt Alexandra's presence before I saw her. "Ready to make history?" she asked, her voice low and intimate. I turned, drinking in the sight of her. Even in her grease-stained coveralls, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "With you by my side? Always." We shared a quick kiss, ignoring the mix of supportive cheers and disapproving mutters from the surrounding crew. In the weeks since our relationship had become public, we'd learned to tune out the noise and focus on what mattered, each other and the race. As I slipped into my car, Alexandra leaned in for one last pep talk. "Remember, the left rear tire might give you trouble in the final laps. Don't push it too hard until you absolutely have to." I nodded, my mind already shifting into race mode. "Got it. See you at the finish line." The roar of engines filled the air as we lined up at the starting grid. I could see Melissa 2 cars ahead, her sleek red vehicle gleaming in the sunlight. She'd been our fiercest competitor all season, both on and off the track. The flag dropped, and we were off. The world narrowed to the track ahead, the competitors around me, and Alexandra's calm voice in my ear. For the first half of the race, I held steady in third place, conserving energy and tires as we'd planned. But as we entered the final third, things started to go sideways. Literally. "Jane, your left rear is degrading faster than we anticipated," Alexandra's voice crackled through the radio. "You're going to have to baby at home." I gritted my teeth, feeling the car start to slide in the turns. Melissa and the current second-place driver were pulling away, taking advantage of my struggles. "I don't know if I can hold on," I admitted, fighting to keep the car under control. There was a pause, then Alexandra's voice came back, strong and sure. "Yes, you can. I believe in you, Jane. This car, this race, this moment, it's all yours. Take it." Her words ignited something in me. With renewed focus, I adjusted my driving, compensating for the failing tire. Slowly but surely, I began to claw back the distance. As we entered the final lap, I was right on Melissa's tail. The crowd was on its feet, the energy electric. This was it. Everything we'd worked for came down to these last few turns. In the final straightaway, I saw my opening. Melissa drifted wide, leaving just enough space. It was risky. With my compromised tire, the maneuver could send us both spinning out. "Now or never," I muttered, and made my move. Time seemed to slow as I slipped past Melissa, my car screaming in protest. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought I'd lose control. But then I was through, crossing the finish line a hair's breadth ahead. The world exploded into a cacophony of cheers and engine roars. I'd done it. We'd done it. As I pulled into the winner's circle, my team swarmed the car. But I only had eyes for one person. Alexandra pushed through the crowd, her face radiant with joy and pride. I climbed out of the car and straight into her arms, not caring who saw. Our lips met in a kiss that was broadcast on jumbo screens around the track. The cheers, if possible, grew even louder. "I told you you could do it," Alexandra whispered as we broke apart. "We did it," I corrected her. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." As we stood there, confetti raining down around us, I realized something profound. This victory wasn't just about the race. It was about us, two women who had found love in an unexpected place and had the courage to fight for it, both on and off the track. The post-race press conference was a blur of flashing cameras and rapid-fire questions, but one moment stood out. A reporter, eyeing Alexandra and me with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, asked, "Do you think your relationship has affected your performance this season?" I looked at Alexandra, saw the strength and love shining in her eyes, and smiled. "Absolutely," I said, taking her hand. "It's made us stronger, faster, and more determined than ever. Love isn't a distraction, it's rocket fuel." The room erupted in laughter and applause. As we left the conference, hand in hand, I felt invincible. We'd faced down prejudice, overcome technical challenges, and come out on top. But as we celebrated late into the night, a small part of me wondered, what comes next? We'd reached the pinnacle of our sport, shattered barriers, and found each other in the process. Where do you go when you've already touched the stars? Little did I know, life had one more surprise in store for us, one that would change everything all over again. 1 year to the day after our championship win, I found myself standing in the same Halloween party venue where Alexandra and I first met. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Full circle," Alexandra whispered, reading my mind as she adjusted the vintage racing suit we'd both worn that fateful night. Our relationship had become something of a legend in the racing world. Sponsors who once hesitated now proudly displayed our photos. We'd become more than just racers. We were advocates, role models for a new generation of athletes. But tonight felt different. There was an electricity in the air, a sense of anticipation that made my hands tremble slightly. I turned to Alexandra, my heart racing faster than any car I'd ever driven. "I've got something for you," I said, pulling a small box from my pocket. Her eyes widened. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. "Jane Williams," she said, her voice catching. "Are you proposing?" "Absolutely," I interrupted, dropping to one knee right there in the middle of the Halloween party. "Remember where we first met? Seems fitting." The box opened to reveal a custom-designed ring, shaped like a miniature piston, crafted from platinum and racing-grade metals. A small diamond caught the light, representing every obstacle we'd overcome. "Marry me," I said simply. "Not just as my partner in life, but as my partner in everything." Alexandra's response was to pull me up and kiss me, right there in front of everyone. Cheers erupted, from our racing team, from friends, from strangers who'd followed our journey. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. As we celebrated, Mike, our team owner, approached with a mysterious smile. "We've been keeping something from you two," he said. Turns out, we'd been selected to launch a groundbreaking racing academy. Not just any academy, but one specifically designed to support LGBTQ athletes, to provide mentorship, training, and a safe space for those who'd been marginalized in professional sports. "You'll run it together," Mike explained. "Your story, your success, it'll inspire a whole generation of racers." I looked at Alexandra, saw my entire future reflected in her eyes. We'd fought so hard to be together, to be accepted, and now we had the chance to create a path for others. The racing world had tried to push us aside, to define us by our sexuality rather than our skills. Instead, we'd redefined the entire game. As midnight approached, Alexandra leaned in close. "Ready for our next race?" she asked, her breath warm against my ear. I grabbed her hand, intertwining our fingers. "Always," I whispered back. The Halloween party continued around us. Costumes, music, celebration. But for us, it was more than a party. It was a homecoming, a victory lap, the start of something entirely new. Our love had always been about motion, about pushing boundaries, about finding speed in unexpected places. And now, we were about to accelerate into our greatest adventure yet. Together.